If none, I'll accept a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Commissioner Tyken.
Second.
Okay, second Commissioner Halberg. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, under other actions, TC Land Final Plat 2021-33, Heritage Ridge 3rd Edition. Staff report by John Hinsman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Planning Commission. What we have before us tonight is the 3rd edition of the Heritage Ridge subdivision, which is shown on your screens here. This is a 40-lot portion of the larger 116-lot subdivision. The first two phases of the subdivision are located here with about 40 lots altogether, and then there is a remaining portion of the property up here which would be done in a later phase. When we're looking at preliminary or final plats, what we're looking at is consistency with the preliminary plat. You may recall that we looked at the preliminary plat, which is the detail for the entire subdivision, including grading plans and landscape plans, the overall engineering of the subdivision back in August of 2020. And the City Council approved that on October of 2020. What we're looking at in this circumstance between final plats and preliminary plats is consistency with that preliminary plat. Does the lotting, design, streets, so forth, are they consistent? We do the preliminary plat to set up the engineering for eventual subdivision. Typically, when a developer gets ready to build lots, they take a portion of that subdivision, subdivide it off, and then sell those lots. So that's what we have before us tonight. Property itself is zone R2, single or medium density residence. This does conform to the R2 standard. As you can see from the aerial map, it's a pretty gently rolling farmland for the most part with a lot of rock underneath it. And that's what we have before us. So looking at the plat here itself, let's go to the next page. Let's see. There we go. Overall subdivision here, 3rd phase here, includes extension of a couple of streets, Ridge Point Drive, this is West Point Drive, and Fallbrook Drive as it goes north. Also the construction of a portion of North Ridge Drive here. So those would be constructed, the 40 lots would be subdivided. This outlot A over here would be for stormwater ponding for the development. The development also has ponding that was already constructed via outlot C, A, and B through here. So this would generate stormwater through both of these areas. Street layout, lot layout is consistent with the preliminary plat. There will be some sidewalks that will be constructed on a couple of these streets here, one of them being on the side here of Ridge Point Drive and West Point Drive. North Ridge Drive is a collector road. It's platted a little bit wider, so it would have sidewalk and trail on both sides, which would link up to the sidewalk and trail system at North Ridge Drive at this location. As we're aware, there's aggregate operations to the south of the subdivision here. The lots that are most immediately adjacent have been platted in earlier phases. However, there's still lots that come in closer proximity in this area here. We've had an agreement as a requirement as part of the other subdivisions that notification and the location and operation of that mine is made known to the buyers of these properties through their association documents and closing documents. As far as civil plans go, we're finishing our review of that. Right now we're just looking at stormwater basins. We do not believe there will be anything here that will substantially change the layout of the subdivision here. With this, there's some payment of fees that would come forward. Parkland dedication, our park board looked at the parkland dedication situation in the subdivision, opted to have cash payment instead of land dedication, so that would be required before recording, as well as our interceptor sewer fee. There would be a stormwater maintenance agreement also recorded on the property, as well as maintenance agreements for these other stormwater ponding areas. So we are recommending approval of the final plat. We are finding it that it does meet the requirements and is consistent with the preliminary plat that was approved. There's a number of conditions within your report that would be subject to them. So I can stand for any questions that you may have at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, John. And I understand, John, that you had a couple people that may have wanted to speak. Is that to this particular item?
There may be, yeah. If, it's technically, Mr. Chairman, not a public hearing, but the commission has generally been allowable to have people speak to the issue if you're so inclined.
Okay. All right, sounds good. First of all, I'll ask our fellow commissioners if you have any questions or comments first regarding this plat. Okay, I'll go ahead and, Andrew, you're here to speak to this? Okay. All right, Angela, we have one person here in the chambers. Do we have anybody on Zoom? So we are doing this, just so I honest notes, we're still continuing the hybrid method of taking comments both in person and on Zoom. So I just want to see if you've got that person on Zoom as well. But you can go ahead and if you want to step to the podium over here, the speaker's on. If you just want to state your full name and then your address.
Hi, my name is Angela Zion at 1772 Delridge Court. Is that all I had to say? Hastings, Minnesota. Okay. My biggest thing is when you wrote in there, it's just that you're just going to let them know that there could be noise. That's all it said. Okay. Are you going to describe the noise? Are you going to tell them what they're going to feel or just what they're going to hear? Is the noise just from all the construction or they're all the they're backing up vehicles and things like that. All it said is that you're going to let them know that there's going to be noise, but not what they're going to feel throughout their home, that they're going to experience in their homes. I just heard the word, you're going to let them know that there's noise. So can you expand on, I want to know, and Rob, you're a realtor, I'd like to know how you're going to sell these lots. I mind we're in third phase here, but how we're honestly selling these lots knowing the quarry is active, and are you just going to say, oh, you're just going to hear some noise? That doesn't say anything to me because you've never experienced the quarry or these recent blasts from what they're doing right now. So to say that there's going to be some noise, I'm going to sign my name. Oh, they said there's going to be some noise. Okay, is that going to be the trucks going back and forth, the backing up, beeping, things like that, which you do hear? But are you telling them that they're going to experience, a quake going through their home, their windows are going to rattle, that someone's going to be, a guest is going to be in your home and they're going to wonder what the hell's going on if they're having an earthquake in their home? I mean, are those things being explained? I want to know what noise, that's the only descriptor that you stated in your aggregate section. So I'm just curious what is in the thing for the signing off, because you're going to let them know what their closing documents, what is going to be described there.
Mr. Chair, I can assist with that question here. Certainly, I paraphrased pretty simply when I said noise on that one.
Yeah, very.
Within the agreement itself, I don't have it in front of me, but it says something to the effect that you are on notice that there is an active mining operation that is adjacent to this site, which has blasting operations, which can be a couple of times a week, a couple of times a month. So there's a notice that there's a mining operation, and that mining operation has blasting as an element part of it.
So not what they're going to experience or feel or hear or anything else.
You know,
Just so that's like, it's to them to wonder and experience and go, oh crap, we already signed off. So does that mean that if they have any structural damage or anything that happens from that they signed off already, so everyone's free and clear? Is that what that means?
Ultimately, that's going to be a responsibility between the owner, the developer of the property, and the purchaser of the property there, from the mining operation itself. What we want to make sure is that the person buying the property is going in with their eyes open as to what the effects may be from buying a property in that location.
Because nobody in the existing across the street never knew anything about that prior to our purchases. So I appreciate that. So, okay. That's my piece. But I think Steve has some other piece, so I'm going to end it there. But I'm just saying that word noise is just wasn't enough for me, so.
Oh, I would agree.
Okay, thank you. Steve?
Hi, my name is Steve Zion at 1772 Delridge Court. First of all, John, you mentioned people doing due diligence when they purchase a property, correct? Obviously, this developer did not do his due diligence when he purchased the property, not knowing that there was as much rock underneath that they would have to manage between all these three phases right now. Currently, we are dealing with phase 2, and the amount of blasting that's going on currently within phase 2. I spoke with the interim city engineer. They were supposed to come back and put up their own seismograph readers. This was back in beginning of August when we first started dealing with the blasts on a daily basis. At that point, I believe the city engineer did contact the developer. He did come out and was there to experience some of the blasting that was going on. Right now, we currently have up to 10 or more residences that have issues with their foundations, with the interior portions of their house, because of the continuous blasting that's going on within phase 2 right now. Looking at the map for phase 3, I can guarantee you that they're already blasting in phase 3 prior to this coming through to you guys. From foundation cracking to sheetrock cracking to chandeliers being moved off of their housing, we're not getting any answers. From the blasting company, we've got a very generic form to fill out and send to their insurance company. Multiple residents have done that. We have not heard a peep back. By having the developer come out at the beginning of August was kind of a good faith, just to show his face, saying, yes, we're looking at it. But here, go through their contractor, through their insurance company from that contractor. We still have not heard anything from that contractor's insurance company regarding any of the damages that we're posting or wrote down on that generic form for them. So as far as going on and allowing them to continue blasting because they didn't do their due diligence to see exactly what was underneath that ground when he purchased it and planned this subdivision is very poor on their part. Now it's affecting, again, a lot of other residents that they're not even making any concessions to minimize the blasting like they said that they were going to. Today, we've had somebody that normally doesn't pipe up on our group chat in our neighborhood stating that one of the blasts says it sounds like his ceiling was going to fall in because of how large it was. And Delridge Court is obviously right across the street from Ridgepoint Court and Ridgepoint Drive, where they're doing a majority of their blasting. And again, they've been blasting even west of Ridgepoint Drive, which is in phase 3. We still haven't seen any information from the city engineer regarding the size of the blasts. We have no idea if they're within the conforming statutes for the state of Minnesota and what the city required them. So we just want to make sure that not only the planning commission knows, but the city council knows when this goes before the city council that, hey, they're having issues with how they're doing things now. Nothing is being resolved. Please don't allow them to continue developing this how they're doing it now, because there's a lot of issues that are going unresolved and there's no answers, and we don't want to let it get too far where it gets to the point where nothing's fixable. A lot of the issues are underground, they're on our foundations. Most of us have finished basements, so the only thing we can see is what's above ground level without having to excavate or tear apart our finished basements to see what it's actually doing behind the walls or below the grade. So please take that into consideration, because right now nothing is being finalized, nothing has been done. We haven't heard a peep from the general contractor and the blasting company or their insurance company on what they're going to be doing to minimize and to correct the issues that they have created so far. So they do have multiple more blastings. We just got another mailer that we weren't even included on the first mailer until all the issues were started to brought forward to their attention. And now they just sent out a new mailer within the nearby vicinity that they've got another 2 to 3 weeks of blasting for phase 2, to put in the roads for the utilities as well as blasting for basements. So please take that into consideration for approval. I know it's not what you guys can do. It's going to be what you're going to say to the city council. But going forward with how they're developing this right now is causing a lot of issues with the existing homes. And nothing is being done. So hopefully we can put more pressure on not only the contractor, but the developer of this property, and not just save face by coming out and saying, yes, we'll look into it, and still nothing is being done. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Are you on Delridge Court in the cul-de-sac here?
Correct.
Oh,
We're the
Furthest house away, and we've got issues as well as the people that are closer to general city.
okay. All right, thank you. Commissioners, any questions, comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, there is one person on Zoom, I'm not sure if they wish. There is one person on Zoom, I don't know if they wish to address anything at the meeting, so you may want to call to see if anyone on Zoom, and I see a hand up here, so I will bring them into the meeting. Hold
All
on.
right, perfect.
So I think I've got Ben Spader here, and, or Shondell. You are in the meeting?
Hi, thank you. I was just jumping in. I am neighbors with Steve. So Shondell Spader, 1784 Delridge Court in Hastings. I was just jumping in to second really what Steve and Angela have brought in front of you tonight. We have significant damage here at our home as well. They've really gone through all of the points. They did a nice job kind of summarizing all of the issues that we've been dealing with. The biggest frustrations are the fact that they're coming in. I believe that they know the damage they're causing and they're trying to put a Band-Aid on it, get in, blast, and leave, and not really truly take care of these things. I understand that developments need to be created and Hastings needs the growth and all of these things. I'm not against the neighborhood, of course, right? But there are other methods to being able to get these homes in there and get the development made. And I mean, as far as I know, there wasn't blasting and such done on this side of the road. There had to have been other ways that they went ahead and got all of our developments in as well, and all of our phases and that. So the damage is extremely disappointing. I basically have a 7-year-old house that now has damage that I had nothing to do with, and I can't even get it repaired because we're not getting any answers. While the developer did come out, he was kind, and I appreciate him coming out. I don't think it had any meaning, or so far it's not providing any resolution either. It's not even pointing us in the direction of solutions, which is extremely frustrating. The form that they mentioned as far as being able to submit that back to the blasting company, it's a Word document that has no branding. It's nothing. It's really somebody went in, put it on a piece of paper and mailed it to us and said, mail this back to us. And they're supposedly putting it out to their insurance companies. We have no way to follow up. The contact at the blasting company doesn't return phone calls or emails or even acknowledge that anybody has sent anything in. It's really disheartening to know that this is being allowed and that we really have no recourse to have our homes that we've all paid very valuable money for, and we're getting nowhere. So if you could please keep that in mind as you are making further approvals. I don't think bringing in new housing at the expense of all of us is appropriate. I think there's other ways, whether it's more cost effective for the contractors, or I'm sorry, the developer to do it this way or not, is not my responsibility. I don't think damaging my home to save him dollars makes sense. So I appreciate you hearing me tonight, and thank you for holding this meeting.
Okay, thank you. John, anyone else on Zoom?
Nope, Mr. Chair, I do not see anyone else on Zoom here.
No? Okay. Okay, and like I said earlier, we typically don't have a a public comment period on an application, but obviously there's some extenuating circumstances that we don't normally run into when we're looking at a second or third plat on a development. So I appreciate the comments on that, those things I weren't aware of. So,
Mr. Chair, I do see one more person that did come in on Zoom. I don't know if that individual wishes to address
okay.
the commission.
Do we have a name?
Ben Spader. Ben Spader.
Ben? Ben Spader. Can you hear, if you can hear us, use the raise hand feature on your Zoom.
Okay, I'll bring
And-
him in.
We'll bring you into the meeting.
Okay, he should be coming in here, and Ben, if you unmute, you'll be set to address the commission.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hintzman. I appreciate it. And thank you, the rest of the commission, for your time to just listen to our comments and concerns. Honestly, I just joined, so I haven't heard any of the previous meeting comments or anything, but I just wanted to express my concern of basically, well, I work from home. I feel most of the blasts from the quarry and also from this new development across the road. They're very much different blasts that seem to be shaking the house in different ways. From the blast right across our road, no more than 200 feet away, there was just two of them today, easily within 200 feet of our foundation, and possibly even within like 75 to 100 feet of the closest house right next to us foundation, where they're blasting roughly 25 to 30 holes at a time. That makes an explosion go up roughly 20 to 30 feet high in the sky within 75 feet of the closest house and 150 to 200 feet of our house. So when we're sitting in the house, like I work in the basement all day long, the entire basement, when I'm in the basement on the other side of the house, it shakes, like the entire house and the basement shakes. And it really is hard to believe that's not having some kind of adverse effect on the core foundation of the house. And the main thing that I'm concerned about is the adverse effect is going to be seen 10 or 20 years from now. So that's my primary concern is there's no way to measure this today, that how it's adversely affecting our foundations and properties. So I have big concerns in that realm, and I'm just this is a lot different than any other quarry blast happening. We obviously didn't have any concerns about the quarry happening across the way because they were a lot less of a blast that didn't shake the house quite as much. So that said, that's pretty much everything I have to say. So thank you so much for your time tonight.
All right, thanks, Ben. Ben, can I get your address? I didn't catch that at the beginning.
Oh, sorry, 1784 Delridge Court. And as I started talking, my wife mentioned that she also talked before I got on.
Okay, I thought that sounded familiar. All right,
Yep.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Have anybody else?
I do not see anyone else, Mr. Chair.
All right. I will open it up to commissioners for questions, comments.
Mr. Chair, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm confused. In here, we talked about the mining blasting, and this is different?
This is, yep, explanation. The mine is an aggregate mine that blasts from time to time for their aggregate business. As part of the development of this subdivision, Heritage Ridge, there's a lot of rock underneath. The developer has chosen to blast that rock out as part of the development. So blasting out home foundations, trenches for utilities, roadways, etc. So what they're doing here is for the development of the subdivision. When the development of the subdivision is completed, that ceases.
Okay.
Quarry operation is a longer-term operation.
So we're notifying people that there's a quarry mining going on next door, but nothing about the development being blasted, is that what you're saying?
Kind of two ends of it, where the people that are moving into this new subdivision here, we're requiring them to have notice provided that there is an active mining operation adjacent to the property. So that's something that would be recorded upon the documents of people purchasing properties in the new subdivision. With the work going in the subdivision for the utilities and the roadways, we've also had the contractor and the developer notify the surrounding neighborhood of the blasting activities that are going on as part of the subdivision.
Okay, I get it now. And I should have started off with thanking people for coming in. It's always nice to hear people from the public come in and speak their minds. And I guess I get it now. And is the city, I mean, do they have to get a permit for this, or how does that process work?
Sure, with that, there was permission granted through our engineering department. There's certain parameters in which blasting can operate. There's certain measures from a seismic reading standpoint that they have to operate within. So that's part of the permit that they would have from our engineering department to do this. So this is a private contract here, a methodology that was chosen by the developer to clear rock in this. It's something that's allowable under state rules and under our practices here, provided they keep under certain seismic conditions.
And is there anybody that checks up on them?
Right, yes. They are seismic readings that are given to us, verified by our city engineer and by his geotechnical staff there that have more familiarity with these things.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm not sure if we can really take that into effect when we look at this plat, but I strongly urge the city to work with the local residents to figure this out, because had I lived closer, I'd be in the audience complaining about it. I don't think it's right to, work from home as Ben does and have blasting going off, during all the time, so. I would, yeah. So, again, I don't think it's part of this plat approval, but I definitely wish the city and the local neighborhood would work something out. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I agree. This is good for me to be brought to the attention of this, because I was under the impression that there was communication going on between the developer and the neighbors, and that's not happening right now from what I'm hearing, so we have to get that going again.
Yeah, the blasting company does the mailer saying that they're gonna blast. But there's no follow-up as far as any of the damages that are being done. They just keep blasting.
Yeah, I think it's important to provide some sort of expectations at time for what happens. Seems like you guys are left in the dark at this point. I'd have the same concerns.
And we've been left in the dark not only from the developer, the blasting company, but we've also been left in the dark by the city's engineering department, because they've never followed up saying they were gonna bring out their own seismograph readers and not just go off of what they're giving, have been given the information.
I mean, I don't know, I'm sorry, I just have a hard time believing that you're just gonna believe what they give when the guy stood there like, they're gonna lower their loads, and we're gonna feel what that feels like. I mean, I just would just love for any guys to come over and join the party any time of the day.
Okay, before we continue on, no, that's okay. We just, it's not necessarily a dialogue kind of portion. If you're gonna make your comments, we wanted the podium on the record, etc. So I just wanna clear that for just a second. All right, Commissioner Mansky, go ahead.
All right. John, do we know the extent yet that they have to work out there and blast yet? Have they, I mean, can we be provided a map of some sort that shows us the areas that they still have to work and how much more they needs to be done with the blasting? I mean, is it throughout the entire area that they're blasting, or is it in certain portions of the new area that's going under construction? Is this going to go on into the next edition that's going to be come up? We're going to see this blasting going to be happening also?
My understanding is that the blasting that's going on right now is for the rock for the entire subdivision, so that there wouldn't be an opportunity, there wouldn't be future phases. I've heard directly from the developer that the third phase, the one before you tonight, they wouldn't be instituting further blasting to do that. That doesn't mean that they're not working already in that area. They might be, because the grading plan that they had goes beyond the subdivision plat that we're looking at today. With the subdivision plat, we're looking at subdividing off properties individually, legally, but the grading plans go beyond that. So I believe the intent of the developer is to have the rock complete for the entire subdivision in the near future. Now, this is maybe different from the information I'm hearing from the Zions tonight, but the information I got from the developer today was that the blasting contractor should be near completion this week if they don't get any rain, and possibly a couple days next week. That's what I'm hearing from him. That seems to be different than what the letter that you guys have received, so I'll need
Yeah,
to
we
verify
received the
that.
letter last week saying it was gonna be 2 to 3 weeks of more blasting going on. So right now, they were doing a lot of the blasting right here at Ridge Point Court, closest to General Sieben, closest to these two neighbors that are within 75 to 100 feet of that blasting. So that's where we're dealing with, is the blasting that's going along that core or that vein of the rock underneath. Part of the restrictions that you had said that they have to make to people that are buying houses in this development directly pertain to the Solberg aggregate. There are some existing houses that are pre-built in phase 1 that are being directly affected by this blasting as well. Are any of these house sales to these individuals going to be known about the existing blasting that are directly behind these houses, these are the 3 villas on Block 1, Lot 2, 3, and 4 right now, as well as the other 2 models on the south side of that road. Once phase 2 starts to get developed, and if they have any more continuous blasting, are these people going to be notified of the blasting that's going on the site? Not just by the Solberg aggregate, but the blasting that's already on the site, affecting these already built houses, but any future houses that are being built during phase 3 development or phase 4 development. So it's just a matter of making sure people are aware and the corrections of what's already been in the works and the stuff that's already been damaged, what the corrective actions are going to be taken by the developer if his subcontractor doesn't own up to their faulty blasting, or who knows, because we haven't seen anything. We haven't seen anything from them. We haven't seen anything from the city coming out and saying, yes, they are within the limits, but they're still causing damage at these lower limits that are approved by. So they still need to correct these things that are happening, so.
All right, thank you. Commissioners. Commissioner Halber?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was my question that he brought up about the existing homes that have been built, the models. I know we're kind of veering off a little bit about what we're here for, but I have a concern about those homes as well that are already built. I don't know if our purview is to really get too deep into this, or are we just looking to approve the plat and the city council would then have conversations with the contractor and the developer coming into the council chambers? Because I guess I had no idea that there was blasting going on to this point. It's actually rather concerning that there's been a real lack of communication between a number of different parties. Homes that are only a few years old shouldn't be having major foundation issues now just for the sake of another development. So I guess I'm just kind of wondering, John, what our mission for us is. Are we just looking to approve this plat and the other stuff is more the purview of like the council? I guess I'd just like a little direction.
Sure.
Thank you.
Commissioners, what's before us tonight is the final plat for a portion phase of the subdivision. Technically speaking, it's the subdivision of this property into individual lots. It's not dealing with the construction methodology. It's not dealing with the grading utility plan or anything related to the blasting itself. That was something that the plans themselves, not the methodology for how they would remove the rock, but the plans themselves were approved as part of the preliminary plat last year. Now, certainly the methodology with the blasting on here and the amount of rock is different than what was what was planned on in the beginning, and it causes hardships and stress and potential damage to neighboring properties. That I understand. With far as the proposal before you tonight, I see that as independent from what's happening with the construction on the site.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Matzke, did you have something?
Prior to construction in the second edition with the new blasting, what was it like from Solberg when you had blasts? I mean, you've lived there for some years. Were you experiencing some of the same things from Solberg blasting, or was it not to the same extent? I mean, obviously this is closer. It seems to be more intense. What was it like prior to that?
Prior to the Phase 2 blasting of this development, with the blasting from the Solberg pit, it was very minimal. I mean, you would feel a little bit of a rumble, but that was about it. The existing blasting, where it's definitely shaking your house, rattling everything. I mean, we've got, like I said, we've got foundation cracks, we got cracks in our lower level ceiling, cracks that, obviously, concrete gets hard and it cracks, but not to the extent of the size of these cracks that we have. So it's completely different as far as the two different types of blasting, just due to the proximity of where it's at. So the size of the loads, like Ben Spader had made mention, when they go and they blast, they're drilling 10, 15 different holes, and they're doing a rhythmic blast where every couple seconds it'll go. And we do have videos of the ground blasting up 30, 40, 50 feet in the air when they do the blasting. So, and it's 3, 4, 5 times a day that they are doing it. We were told that they were going to be doing smaller blasts and more of them to kind of minimize. We haven't seen that, so.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any other comments, questions? Yeah, I guess, go ahead.
Is there a way that we can voice that potentially the contractor needs to address some of the issues to the to the city council prior to approving this plat, saying, based in our motion, saying, hey, they need to address some of these concerns before it gets approved, and still yet move it forward? Is there a way we can do this?
Commissioner, if you feel that the conditions that will be attached to approval are connected to the approval at hand, I'd say yes. In this circumstance, I don't know how the connection between the third phase of subdivision into lots is connected to the construction methodology of the subdivision. What I would suggest is, through the notes that we're seeing here, the discussion tonight, that will be made aware to the council, so that they will be aware of what's going on. I believe most of them have heard from residents in the area and are aware of the blasting. I've sent out several emails to them over the last few weeks to let them know what's going on, and they've been contacted by individual residents. So they're aware of the situation going on here.
Okay, thanks, John. Yeah, and just to add to it, so we have the planning commission, which is the advisory board, if you will, to the city council. And what we look at is the plat itself, so the layout itself. Does the layout itself meet the guidelines that were set forth in the original plat agreement? And I think the construction issues that are being experienced and addressed, that is definitely up on the city council level and with the city direct. But I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to have their comments on the record. And I do believe this is, when we're done here with our discussion, this is gonna go to city council. We'll announce that date. Okay, and then I encourage you guys to come back for city council. I encourage the ones on Zoom to either come in or come back on Zoom. I think they're still doing hybrid Zoom, and come back in on city council. And they have a little bit more of a different purview when dealing with these types of issues than we do. We're looking at just the plat does that layout, does that proposal meet the city's guidelines for a proper layout, given what they were approved for originally? So, while I totally agree, I had no idea they were gonna blast either. I don't think either of the four of us knew that, but then we're not able to really affect any change on that, so unfortunately. But we have the comments on record, and I certainly encourage you to come back to city council, to the meeting, on Zoom or in person, and work with the city direct on that, because I think that'd be a good option. But as far as the plat is concerned, I think that is a completely separate issue, and that is not one and the same, and I don't think we can connect the two, as far as this particular proposal is concerned. So that's just what I think. Okay, commissioners, any other questions or comments? No? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I make a motion that the Planning Commission recommend approval of Heritage Ridge 3rd Edition, final plat number 2021-33-TC Land.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Halbert, second. Any further discussion? No? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. And the recommendation will move forward to the city council meeting, and that will be Tuesday, September 7th, because of the Labor Day holiday, 7 p.m.
Tuesday, September 7th. All right, thank you. Thanks for coming in. Tuesday, September 7th is the next meeting. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda.
All right, well, Mr. Chair, I'll set this up here.
Okay, while you're setting that up, it's the 2020 Community Development Annual Report. Presentation by Grady Timmerman. Welcome, Grady.
Right, I'm just gonna, there we go. Mr. Chairman, Planning Commissioners, as you know, we put together annual report each year to highlight the activities of the Community Development Department. Grady's been serving as our Community Development intern over the summer and has done the lion's share of work here in putting together our summary, so I thought it best for him to share. So, all yours, Grady.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Commissioners. Like he said, I'm Grady Timmerman. I'm the Community Development Intern, and I will be presenting the Community Development Department's 2020 Annual Report. Oh, I'll talk into this more. Starting off with 2020's development and construction activities. Is that better? A little louder? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it's in the mic right here.
Well, I think there's two, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of move towards you. And
Okay.
a little easier.
There you go. All right. In 2020, there were a total of 56 residential permits issued with an evaluation estimated at $5.3 million. There were also 83 commercial permits issued in 2020 with an estimated evaluation of about $20.5 million. That is an increase of 34 permits and about $1.8 million from the year before. And lastly, in 2020, there were 133 zoning permits issued, which was 23 more permits than the previous year. Moving on to existing and potential development, the existing lot inventory for lots that are immediately available for development in Hastings includes 78 single-family lots, 10 multifamily lots, and 244 multifamily units. Heritage Ridge, Villas at Pleasant, Riverwood, and Glendale Heights are some of the existing developments currently being undertaken. The planned lot inventory, or lots that require further city approvals before development, include 134 single-family lots, 184 multifamily lots, and 60 multifamily units. South Oaks, South Pines, and Sunset West are some of the planned developments in the city of Hastings. The potential lot inventory, or lots with no formal approvals granted for development, include 1,257 single-family lots, 717 multifamily lots, and 296 multifamily units. In total, that is 1,469 single-family lots, 912 multifamily lots, and 600 multifamily units. So moving on to Planning Commission activities in 2020, the Planning Commission reviewed 51 applications for new development and changes to the city code. That is up 36 that were reviewed in 2019 and is higher than the annual average. Here are some of the highlights from the year, starting with Wallen 18th edition. In 2020, the Planning Commission was asked to consider the adoption of a resolution approving the final plat of Wallen 18th edition. The addition consisted of 11 single-family lots, 1 outlet for future development. The approved site is a part of and consistent with the Wallen preliminary plat and master development agreement containing single-family homes approved by the City Council on July 8, 2002, and is generally located north of River Shore Drive between General Stephen Drive and Woodcliff Trail. The Planning Commission was also asked to hold a public hearing and review the special use permit request of Spiral Brewing to expand their brewery and tap room by adding a rooftop deck. The applicants proposed to develop rooftop seating for the brewery tap house that was approved in 2017. The one-level building was built in 1863 and is about 4,500 square feet in size. About half the building is used for retail sales and half for production and storage. The special use permit was granted to Spiral Brewing as recommended by staff. The deck added about 400 to 500 square feet of rooftop seating to their location in downtown Hastings. Moving on to Schoolhouse Square, the Planning Commission reviewed the following actions for the development of a 90-unit independent living senior housing facility proposed by Real Estate Equities. Number 1, the preliminary and final plat of Schoolhouse Square 4th edition, which included a replat of 2 existing outlots and a single lot of record. A special use permit for construction of number 2, a special use permit for construction of a building exceeding 400 feet in height within the RMU or residential mixed use zoning district. And finally, the site plan for the 4-story senior housing building with the underground parking. The Planning Commission also held a workshop with the development team to review the concept plan on January 13th, 2020. The application was revised to incorporate comments from the commission, including elimination of surface parking lot at 10th and Ramsey and creation of dog run and gazebo as a site amenity. The 2.07 acre property is generally located northwest at 10th Street and Ramsey Street, and construction is anticipated to be completed by 2022. Also in 2020, a public hearing was held and commission reviewed the following actions for the development of Stephen Ridge, 116 lot subdivision consisting of single family and villa home sites by TC Land / Creative Homes. Starting with rezoning of the entire property from A, agriculture to R2, medium density residence. Number 2 was a preliminary plat approval for the creation of 116 single family and villa home sites. And finally, the final plat approval for the subdivision of the first phase of development consisting of 9 lots. The final plat can be found on the left. The 39.97 acre property is generally located west of Stephen Ridge near Fallbrook and Northridge Drives. The first 2 phases of homes are currently under construction. The Planning Commission was also asked to hold a public hearing and review a SUP or a special use permit request to convert a large building in the old Hastings Historic District into an apartment. And related to the special use permit was asked to consider a request for a variance for the number of required parking spaces. The structure was constructed in 1950 as a convent and later converted to a youth shelter in the 1990s. The property was listed as non-contributing property in the old Hastings Historic District, which made it eligible for the use of a historic apartment. The use of apartments in large historic properties was added as an allowable special use permit the year prior. This was in an effort to allow the reuse of these unique buildings as a residential use to complement their residential settings. On August 24, 2020, the Commission held a public hearing and reviewed the following actions for development of 32 villa home sites targeted towards seniors by CIMEC Property Group, starting with the rezoning of the entire property from A, agriculture and R1 single family to R3 medium to high density planned residential development. And number 2, the approval of preliminary plat that include the creation of 32 villa home sites. And finally, the final plat approval for the subdivision of the first phase of development consisting of 16 lots. During the public hearing, several individuals provided comment sharing concerns of the location of the proposed cul-de-sacs in relation to existing backyards, zoning, stormwater, market for homes, screening, and traffic flow. The commission voted 5-0 to recommend the approval of the rezoning to City Council. The 10.38 acre property consists of 2 parcels located at the northwest corner of Pleasant Drive and Northridge Drive, and construction is underway. Then the final project highlighted in the report was Vermilion Acres. A public hearing was held for Vermilion Acres in 2020, and the commission was asked to review the following actions for development of this 3-story, 75-unit senior housing facility consisting of 60 independent care and 15 memory care units as proposed by Headwaters Development and Mint Development. The first action reviewed by commission was the preliminary plat of Vermilion Acres and included a 1-lot subdivision. The second action reviewed by the commission was a site plan for construction of the 3-story, 75-unit senior housing building. And the third action reviewed was a variance to Hastings City Code Section 155.07 subsection E6 that required 15% roof pitch for residential care facilities. The 11.33 acre property is generally located at 1190 County Road 47, and construction is expected to end in 2022. And then with that, I'll leave any questions or comments to John because I was not a part of the city in 2020. Thank you for your time.
All right, thanks, Ray. Nice job.
Thank you.
All right, very nice. Report, love the report. Thank you. I mean, it really reminds you of everything that we've accomplished in such a short period of time. So, commissioners, any questions or comments for John, I guess?
Mr. Chair, just echo that. It was great, and it's kind of fun looking back and seeing all what we've done, because I don't remember some of the stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, I saw it in the report. I'm like, yeah, that's great. And it's also fun to drive around and see the fruits of our labor too, right? So Villas at Pleasant, as soon as we approve that, they're in there, you know, getting it ready to build. So it's much needed more housing in our city, and it's great to see it coming in. So thanks for the report, Grady. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Great, I just want to say as well, for third, fantastic report. So my wife and I were looking at it at home this weekend, and she commented how gorgeously it was laid out. So, well done, sir. And thank you to fellow commissioners for all the work we've put in all the time, and to John for all of his guidance over the last year. So, thank you.
Commissioner Maskey?
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you. That's a wonderful report. Wonderful job on the presentation. With all that we've done, looking at what we have for housing, what do we have for space? How much longer before the city has to expand again?
Well, it's a very timely question, Commissioner. We'll likely have a pending annexation application this year. We have a planning committee meeting scheduled next week. There's 70 acres, Highway 316 east side, east of Michael Avenue, for about 160 single-family homes. So there's a concept plan for that. I think there's going to be a pending annexation application very shortly, and going through land use entitlements over the winter for potential spring construction. So there's one right there. And the conversations that we continue to have with people that are looking at residential development continues. I mean, not all those conversations end to a development, but that's how they start.
Do you eventually see another major road south of our developed areas right now that would connect basically 47 to 316 that doesn't take it up to the stoplight at ConAgra? Do you see a road going through there eventually, or is it going to be everything kind of funneled back towards that ConAgra, that intersection there?
At one point, Commissioner, yes, we probably about 10, 15 years ago, we went through a roadway study to look at that very question. And that was during that last phase of South Pines on the west side of 316. And as part of that development, we had a right-of-way dedicated at the far southern end of that subdivision. So I think it's about the 170th Street alignment. That's kind of what we're thinking of to in the long term, take that west from 316 so people could travel around the south and then over to 4755 Jacob at some point. But more of a longer term plan, but when developments come forward, it provides us the opportunity to gain right of way.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, anything else? All right, next, John, other business?
Other business, well, it's certainly been a while since we've been in this room especially, and even since we've met as a group. I think the last thing we talked about in June was chickens, and they were approved by the council, so they are now allowed in the residential areas. I think we have received one application so far that we're presently reviewing on that item. We will not have a long break before the next planning commission meeting. I already have 2 public hearings scheduled for 2 weeks from now. One of them will be for the Luke Seward apartment complex building, which is on the northwest corner of 3rd Street and Tyler Street in downtown Hastings. Mr. Seward is proposing a 32-unit apartment building. Part of it is an old house that he owns. Part of it is a small parking lot that is owned by Hedra. So Hedra has been going through with him and has agreed to transfer that property over to him, and he's submitted the land use application. So we'll be looking at the plat, site plan, and rezoning of that property at the next meeting. Also at the next meeting, we'll be looking at a site plan special use permit for KO storage within the industrial park, 2699 Commerce. They're doing a couple more storage buildings on their site. So those 2 will be moving forward on the 13th.
Okay, thanks, John. Commissioners, any other business? Oh, okay, if not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Maskey, do I have a second?
I'll second it, Chair.
Commissioner Dyke? Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.